I'm Laurah Norton, and this is One Strange Thing, the show where we search the nation's news archives for stories that can't quite be explained. If you're hearing this, strangers, it means that you are a premium supporter of our show. We love that for us, and for you. It's a true win-win scenario. You fund our research rabbit holes, we provide you with an extra dose of the otherworldly and unhinged. After all, everyone enjoys a weird story now and again, but we like to think that you, as our inner circle, are the elite lovers of the bizarre. When we pull a deep cut from this nation's storied history of cryptids, UFOs, and small-town shenanigans, you might know the story already, or you might not. But either way, we hope you're just as excited as we are to be along for that ride. After all, some stories are worth telling more than once. Those oddities that leave an indelible mark on the fabric of pop culture. Today, we've got a really noteworthy one for you. If you haven't heard of the Max Headroom hijacking incident, we assume you've spent the last few decades either under a rock, which sounds peaceful and we're jealous, or that you're very, very young. In any case, we begin, as so many stories do, on television. Max Headroom, the iconic character, predates the Max Headroom hijacking by 2 years. According to The Verge, his first appearance was in a British made-for-TV movie called Max Headroom, 20 minutes into the future. The plot is very 1980s, very cyberpunk, and very British, so we won't bore you with those particulars. What you need to know is this: Max Headroom is a fictional character, a TV host. In the Max Headroom movie, and in the later TV shows, it's explained that he was generated by AI to be the best possible talk show host. In execution, he's actually glitchy and brash and unsettling to look at. Imagine a cleft chin, coiffed blonde hair, and unnaturally blue eyes, which altogether look like what would happen if a classically handsome movie star melted just a little bit and got an attitude. The BBC refers to Headroom as, quote, the first computer-generated TV presenter, which isn't technically true. Max Headroom was actually portrayed by an actor, Matt Frewer, who wore clunky, surreal prosthetics. Post-production lighting tweaks and that iconic glitchy vocal effect made him look close to CGI, or at least far removed from live action. Adding to the illusion was the fact that his shows began with an abrupt cold open rather than opening credits, often making it look like Max Headroom was taking over the airwaves. Of course, the AI that we had at the time was more science fiction than it was a practical reality that could mess up any TV broadcasts. But you'll note that the BBC presents Max Headroom as a computer generation, and according to The Verge, the special effect work was convincing enough that many viewers were convinced that Max was a snarky computer program just sprung to televise life. And snarky, but popular, he was. The movie origin story launched Max Headroom as a character, but he took off as the host of a real TV show, BBC Channel 4's The Max Headroom Show, where he was functionally a video jockey, playing and commenting on music videos, and later more closely satirizing late-night talk shows. Eventually, The Max Headroom Show aired internationally and got a more dramatic and plot-based American adaptation. As the Times wrote in 1987, both Max Headroom shows enjoyed cult popularity in the States, in spite of being an odd fit for network TV. Quote, the futuristic Max Headroom has a nasty way of making network executives uncomfortable, with storylines that portrayed electronic media gurus as unconscionably greedy swine. One story had a cable operator siphoning the dreams out of the heads of victims as cable entertainment. The process frequently killed the dreamers. End quote. Surely, such a tone would be an odd match for a multinational corporate advertising campaign, but to place the Max Headroom phenomenon into perspective and firmly within its time, we point you to the character's first and most famous sponsorship deal. For New Coke. Yes, New Coke, the nearly universally reviled soda relaunch that came out of the gate real hot in 1985 with a freaky pseudo-computer spokesperson. According to the Max Headroom Chronicles, the character championed the catchphrase, catch the wave and don't say the P word, referring, of course, to that other soft drink. The Library of Congress documented this and many other Coke ad campaigns. This is important to mention because it means that the Library of Congress has documentation that Coke's customer hotlines were flooded with calls about Max, including many inquiries as to whether Max Headroom, the glitchy, plastic-looking, smarmy computer character, had a girlfriend. Just to emphasize, that information is stored in the literal Library of Congress. Anyway, by 1987, Max Headroom was as close to ubiquity as a fake AI with an attitude could possibly hope to be. He was a star around the world and an instantly recognizable character, which was what made the hijacking all the more unnerving. What hijacking? Well, let us tell you. Strangers, it's no mystery. Summer's here and it is hot in the South. And because I still have to live life and find clothes that are stylish and comfortable in this heat, I'm so glad that I have Quince. If you're not familiar, Quince is a gold mine of beautiful pieces at great prices. Think elevated essentials like breathable linen and soft organic cotton, and my personal favorite, premium washable silk. I actually first heard about Quince from a friend who raved about their workwear, but after I've been exploring, I have found so much more. Like the flow knit mid-rise joggers, they're perfect for working from home, and they come in 2 inseams, which is a must for very tall people like myself. It's the perfect hot weather loungewear, and if you're into comfort, you've also got to check out Quince's denim. It's so soft, and it can be dressed up or down with a linen top or maybe a cotton cashmere sweater tee. This probably all sounds pricey, but Quince makes luxurious everyday wear truly affordable. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince works directly with ethical factories and provides the products to you, so you're paying for the quality and not the brand markup. Elevate your summer wardrobe. Go to quince.com/OST for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/OST for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/OST. Chicago area viewers tuned in to WGN-TV on the evening of November 22, 1987, were likely not seeking out anything unusual or bizarre. But these things have a way of finding us when we least expect them, don't they? WGN was an innocuous, independently owned TV station running an innocuous newscast in the 9 p.m. hour. Or, at least, it was innocuous until it wasn't. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, during the sports segment of the 9 p.m. news on WGN, coverage of the Chicago Bears suddenly cut out. Viewers' screens instead showed silent footage of a person in front of a metallic backdrop, wearing a suit and a vinyl Max Headroom mask. Whoever was underneath the mask was swaying unsteadily back and forth, almost like they were seasick. The only sound was a loud, metallic buzz. This signal hijacking was weird, yes, but it was also brief. 17 seconds, according to The Verge, before broadcast engineers were able to switch feeds. According to the UPI, the broadcast engineers at WGN-TV were able to return to their own programming without further incident. At least, without further incident on that channel. 2 hours later, Chicago viewers in the mood for something a little quirkier than the news might have switched over to WTTW, the local PBS affiliate. Per the Chicago Tribune, during the 11 p.m. hour, a Doctor Who rerun was on. But again, viewers got a little more than they bargained for. This time, the viewers could hear an audio transmission from whatever room this headroom head was in. And they could see, well, a lot. Way too much, if you ask us. Strangers, the video still exists out there, and we encourage you to dig it up. It really does speak for itself as a visual piece, but we'll try to give you the gist here. The hijacker in the headroom mask was on camera, but clearly speaking to another person in the room about seemingly random topics. He hummed the theme song for Clutch Cargo, an animated TV show from the late 50s. Then he sang part of a Temptations song. After that, he called a local sportscaster a variety of names. He even held up a Pepsi can and repeated the new Coke catchphrase, "Catch the wave." After that series of comments, things got weirder somehow. The video then cut to the hijacker in the mask pulling their pants down and being spanked with a fly swatter. The woman doing the spanking, who was wearing a French maid costume, berated Max Headroom in terms we cannot repeat on a family podcast. Headroom responded by screaming, "They're coming to get me!" After 90 seconds in total, the broadcast faded to static, then back to Doctor Who, but we expect the viewing audience had trouble paying attention to the rest of the episode. In fact, we know so. Though the rogue broadcast was over almost as quickly as it had begun, viewers weren't about to just let this go. Per WTTW, the PBS affiliate immediately started receiving confused and angry phone calls. According to an anniversary article from WTTW, the people most unsettled by what had happened were, understandably, the people working at the TV station. We don't know how WGN, the first station to be hijacked, responded behind the scenes, but per WTTW, broadcast technicians at the station's headquarters tried and failed to override the signal that had bumped them off air. But there was little that engineers in the control room could do. As WTTW tells it, there was nobody on site at the stationer's broadcast tower, given that it was almost midnight. And it was 90 excruciating seconds of unpredictable, vulgar content. Then director Paul Rizzo told WTTW, "As the content got weirder, we got increasingly stressed out about our inability to do anything about it." Funny though the whole situation is, in hindsight, WTTW was clear in the press almost immediately that this was not just a fun prank, and it was not well received. Andy Yoakum, a spokesperson for the station, told the UPI, "All in all, there are some who may view this as comical, but it is a very serious matter because illegal interference of a broadcast signal is a violation of federal law." 2 days after the hijacking, an official with the Federal Communications Commission told the Chicago Tribune that the hijackers, if caught, would face a maximum of a $100,000 fine and a year in prison. If the hijackers had been having a self-congratulatory laugh, then they probably weren't anymore. Except for one strange thing. We don't know who hijacked these Chicago airwaves, and it's very possible that we never will. Here's what we do know. According to Motherboard, FCC investigators worked out that the intrusion had been transmitted over microwaves. No, not the kitchen appliance, but a frequency range, similar to the way that wireless internet is transmitted now. The microwave transmission that the hackers broadcasted was more powerful than what the TV station's broadcast towers were sending out. So Max Headroom basically overrode the content that should have been received on people's TVs. So, what does this tell us about the hijackers? They would have needed access to some pretty high-powered transmission equipment far beyond the sort of stuff that your average citizen would have access to. Per WTTW broadcast engineer Al Skierkiewicz, It had to be a broadcast engineer, a satellite engineer, or a ham radio operator, and probably a combination of at least two of those in order to pull this off. And as if that's not a tall enough order, according to the Chicago Tribune, they would have likely have been pretty close, physically, to the broadcast towers for both WGN and WTTW. But these two leads, fancy transmission gear, and somewhere in downtown Chicago, weren't ever enough to get law enforcement an answer as to who was the proverbial and literal man behind the mask. And to this day, the hijackers' motives, methods, and identities are still unclear. There's never been a public announcement of leads or compelling suspects. The FCC has kept any information they did uncover under wraps because it was never enough to issue charges. Now, there are theories, of course. WBUR and other outlets posited that a Chicago area hacker could have been behind it, or maybe a disgruntled ex-employee of one of the TV stations. Even if either or both of those were true, the question remains, why make it so weird? Contextualizing this and what was going on in the hacking scene at that time does not, alas, make it make any more sense. We would be remiss if we didn't point out that this was not the first major broadcast hacking of note. It wasn't even the first in the mid to late 1980s. Advertising Age wrote about an April of 1986 hijacking called the Captain Midnight hijacking. In April of 1986, a man calling himself, yes, Captain Midnight, jammed an HBO signal for 4.5 minutes. That hijacking was a lot less sophisticated. There was no video, and just a static screen with the following words.
Good evening, HBO, from Captain Midnight. $12.95 per month? No way. Showtime, Movie Channel, beware.
As you might guess, Captain Midnight, who was later identified as John McDougal, an electrical engineer from Florida, was not pleased about HBO's satellite prices. It almost seems quaint now, if we're being honest. But authorities thought quite the opposite. The LA Times reported that McDougal would take a plea bargain to avoid jail time, but he still had to pay a $5,000 fine, and he had his amateur radio license suspended. And Advertising Age mentioned yet another hijacking incident that happened just 2 months before the Max Headroom broadcast. On September 6, 1987, a broadcast on the Playboy channel was interrupted by written messages urging viewers to repent. In 1990, the LA Times wrote that the perpetrator of that one turned out to be a broadcast technician for a Christian TV network. He was sentenced to a $1,000 fine, 3 years probation, and 150 hours of community service. In both of these hijackings, there was a very clear motive, one being folkloric financial activism and the other religion. The same cannot be said for the Max Headroom hijacking. Forgive us for sounding like, well, writers, but there was no plot at all. No grand statement of purpose or irritation or even really an interest other than just being weird. All of this to say, if the Max Headroom hijackers happen to be listening to this little broadcast, and we'd like to think they are, we would love a clarification. Your statute of limitations was up in 1992, according to WTTW, so you can speak without fear of legal reprisal. Your secret is safe with us, we promise. We just want to know why, even if the point was that there was no point. That might actually be the most poetic solution, if we're being honest. But either way, we'll be over here, just trying to catch the airwaves. Sorry. We hope you'll join us next time for another premium exclusive episode of One Strange Thing.